You got the interview, and you've studied up on all the possible interview questions. But do you know all the information that you have to know before you walk through the door of your interview? In this video, we are going to cover how to look up and all of the information you need to know about those programs before you show up at your interview. Now, everybody loves to be loved, right? If you guys walk into my office and I remember your name, I remember what we talked about last time, I remember facts about your family that you may have told me, that makes you feel really positive that I listened to you in the past, that I paid attention. When you're going on these interviews, the people in the programs, they love to hear what you've learned about them. They love to hear all the great things that their program already does, not because they're so proud, but it shows that you cared enough to love them, to really look into them. So you want to make sure that you're doing these things when you research the program. No patient demographics, no demographics of the hospital in general. You want to know every advertised strength of that hospital and of that department. So if you're going into surgery, you want to know all the surgeries they offer, but pay attention to which ones they are really advertising, they're really pushing, and say those things back to them. Hey, I see that you have a robotic urology program. That's amazing. Although and maybe you're applying to just general surgery. So you can say, oh, do we get to use the robot on any surgeries during our 4th and 5th year? So I can look forward to using the Da Vinci or whatever robot they have. That's a really smart way to show that you looked up things about their hospital, their surgical programs, and so on. You want to know all the available opportunities that are online, that are on any documentation that they've given you. Your job is not to ask questions you know the answers to. We're going to cover that in a little bit about how you show that you look things up and then what question to ask as a follow-up that not only compliments them, but makes you look like an ace on the interview. You want to make sure that you know the goals and the mission of the hospital. So as an example, Kings County Hospital, there's two different things. There's H&H, who came up with the slogan, was it? Oh, I wish I reviewed it right before this. It's live your healthiest life, right? So when you're answering a question on an interview, if you were interviewing there, you would want to say, and one of the things that really struck me was the slogan for the hospital system, live your healthiest life. And I really want to help my patient. I try to do that myself, but I really want to help all my patients live their healthiest life. I don't want to just be taking care of their illness. Saying it like that shows that you really put the time in and love them and really want to be with them. Again, back to the whole idea of dating. You want to prove that you actually like the person, that you like the program. And then another idea of the mission at my hospital is we take care of everybody, no matter who you are, where you're from, no matter what your legal status is, whether you're the victim or the abuser, we take care of everybody. Regardless of who they are, whether they can pay or not, we will take care of you. And that is one of the reasons I work where I work. And that can be one of the reasons you want to work there too. So get to know their missions, their goals. Don't reiterate them exactly necessarily, but work them into who you are so they can see why you would fit in their program. Something I think that is extremely important, but unfortunately is much more difficult to do these days, is get in touch with former SGU grads who have gone to all the programs that you're applying to. We used to be able to look up all the grads year by year by year by year, and then there were some individuals who started harassing people on those lists, so they took everyone's names off. However, you may be able, through the Alumni Association, to be able to get some names of people who are at hospitals that you're going to be interviewing at. Call them, email them, get in touch with them, ask them, what do they love about going to the hospital every day? Ask them what the hospital thinks is one of the core awesomest things about them. Like, what are they really proud of, but nobody really knows about it? An example of that would be at Kings County Hospital. We have taken care of some of the largest sickle cell population in the country. We do sickle cell extremely well. Most of the groundbreaking papers on sickle cell have someone that came from Kings County Hospital. The blood sample that sickle cell disease was discovered with came from Kings County Hospital. So that's something that we are super proud of, that we think we do outstandingly well, but you'd never know that looking at anything on our websites whatsoever. All right, talk with attendings at those places. You can cold email people and say, hey, I am super interested in your program. I really want to go there. I was just interested what you feel are some of the best things about the program that often don't translate through the internet or don't come through when reading about the program. It's a-okay to ask those early on, right now, way before you've gotten the interview, or if you've gotten the interview and you're asking to then, in the interviews in several weeks, just ask. They won't necessarily remember you. It's not really trying to get in with them to get ranked better or anything like that. You're doing it from a sincere and honest information seeking task. And if you're doing it sincere, just information seeking, they're very apt to respond to you and let you know. They want you to love them. Also, remember, they want you, you want them. And if you know any students who rotated in hospitals, all the same stuff, talk to them. That being said, a student's impression is very different than an attending's impression of what they want in a resident, okay? In speaking of students, if you go on physical interviews and you see other students from other schools, don't talk to them about any other program. Do not get their opinion about any other program. They are not there to help you. Don't talk about any program except the program that you're interviewing for that day. You don't want to get other thoughts or mixed images in your head. And they're biased. They may want to hurt your chances. They're not necessarily trying to help your chances. And you don't know who they are. You don't know their experiences. What may be horrible for them may be wonderful for you, and vice versa. All right. They will give you stuff. They will give you stuff in advance. They will give you stuff the day of the interview, potentially. Know everything that's in it. This is pretty self-explanatory. At this point, when I used to do this live, I would ask everyone in the room, so what does this mean? And someone would say I was quoting some famous person, but really it's know your CV inside and out. Know everything that's on that application. If you didn't print out your ERS application, print it out tonight. Know every single detail that's on there. If you put a paper on there that you were part of, or a research project that you were part of, know it. You don't have to know it perfect, but you better know the information that was published on it. The reason why, and again, as an example, I'll use what I do. I like to talk with people. I like to hear how people talk. I'm also interested in learning new things. There was one guy who I interviewed once who had been a professional football player on the Baltimore Ravens. I asked him questions about that. We didn't talk much about medicine, but he worked in leadership and all these other things that he got from that experience. But I was super interested in hearing about that. One thing that I included on my CV, not anymore, but when I was applying for residency, was that I had worked at a cemetery for a few years in the summers. And I left it on there on purpose because I came up with ways to talk about hard work, talking about learning about death, how to help people work through that. Having appreciation for the people I'm going to be taking care of. I worked all of that into that idea, but because it was so weird and they didn't normally see it on the CV or the application, I got asked about it 100% of the time. And I think that's what really helped me get into the residency that I did. You need to know your personal statement inside and out. Make sure if you told a story about some patient that you remember that story about that patient. All right. And I could go on and on and on, but you need to know the material. The other thing about the research is I'll often ask people about the research, not to test them, to learn. I used to do tons of mitochondrial research. And when I see someone that did something that is related to the electron transport chain or storage or function, I will ask tons of questions because I want to learn from them. And I can't tell you how disappointing it is when I ask about it and they say, oh, I just did some computer stuff for them. I don't really know what they did. That is so upsetting to me. And it's not necessarily bad on their part. They were part of it. They put it on the CV, but they're not really able to talk about it. Now, I'm not saying not to have that stuff on there, put that stuff on there, but make sure you know what it was that they were working on. And you can say, oh, well, they were really interesting and they were working on how cyanide really breaks up the electron transport chain. I was just tabulating the data and running statistics for them, but it was really interesting work. That's much better than saying, oh, I don't know what they did. All right. No, I think we covered all of this. Oh, you must know the answers to their top 10 questions. Hopefully we cover those. I don't know. So when they ask you, what are your weaknesses? You got to have a prepared answer. And if you say that you have no weaknesses, that is the worst answer in the world. Do not say you have no weaknesses. That means that you're too prideful or you have no insight. And that is a huge weakness. And they will not rank you for that.